Hello everybody, Portly Paladin back here again for another update. How you doing today? I'm doing kind of strangely. It's been a bit of a weird day for me. Um, we've been having lots of storms here in the Cincinnati area. I think I've told probably a decent number of the people that are going to be watching this that we've had a lot of, um, I guess you'd say, utility problems here at our house. We've had water out, power out, cable out, internet out, etc., for the last couple of, 5 to 6 weeks or so. We've had lots of problems. We've also had lots of storms, and in those storms, we've lost power multiple times. Well, we had a really bad storm that came through on Tuesday, and it knocked our power out for probably about 4 hours. Once power came back on, we had no cable TV. The cable TV did not come back on at all. We had an error message on the screen, etc. Ended up calling the local Cincinnati Bells, who we get our service through because it's a fiber optic service, and they sent somebody out just today. And of course, they give you that window, 8 to noon. That's what I got. So I pretty much couldn't schedule anything to do this morning. Couldn't really do anything that I would normally want to do during that period of time because I had no idea when they would be here. And of course, they didn't show up until exactly noon. When he got here, it turned out that our old modem actually the LAN, the Ethernet connections, the little ports in the back of the modem, every single one of them was fried. So they replaced the modem. It's all good. We've got cable back up again, and everything's good with that. But so yeah, it's been kind of a strange day in regards to that. And it's also been strange because I've weighed myself 4 different times today because things really didn't look right. When I first got up this morning, that's generally when I weigh myself. I went in there and I weighed myself, and I came out at 480. Now, I don't believe that I've gained 4 pounds since last week. I mean, I've done better than the week I'd done before when I'd only gained a single pound. So I just felt that was weird. I was wearing a lot more clothes than I would normally wear when I weigh myself because, I was waiting for them to show up. Generally, I just wear a pair of cotton shorts. But I was wearing shoes, and I was wearing sweatpants and a t-shirt. So I thought, well, maybe that's part of it. So I actually stepped off the scale and took everything extra, threw it onto the scale, and it only came out to weighing about a pound. So still, 3 pounds seems like a lot to have gained in that amount of time when I had a fairly good week. So maybe my body's just weird. Maybe I'm just retaining some water. I'll give it some time. I weighed myself again a couple of hours later and weighed in at 476, same as what I weighed last week. And I thought, well, that's not too bad. I didn't lose anything, but I didn't gain anything either, so that's all good. And then I sort of had a spurt where I was pretty active today, did a little bit of working out. Well, not so much working out as I did a lot of walking, running around. I had to run some errands and things today. When I got home, I felt pretty good, so I said, well, I'll just check it again. And came in at 478. Again, I was wearing the sweatpants, t-shirt, and shoes. So that was weird. Well, just a few minutes ago, right before I started doing this video, I went back in there, moved the scale to a different place, tried it again, and weighed in at 477. So I'm going to go ahead and call it 477 for the week, and just, I guess, take the difference between some of the different weigh-ins. I don't think I've gained 3 or 4 pounds since the last time I weighed myself. I really don't. I've had a really decent week. I worked fairly well. Got some walking and things in there. I've ate pretty well this week. I really don't think that I gained 4 pounds or even 3 pounds. 1, possibly 2, on a slim chance. So let's just go ahead and say 1, and we'll put it at 477. I'm going to do some experimenting and sort of try to calibrate my scale and see if I can figure out what's going on with it. Um, I think what I'm going to do, if no one out there knows, a pint of water weighs a pound. So I'm going to take a gallon of water, which, if I remember correctly, is 8 pints, should be 8 pounds. I'll throw that on the scale and see if it weighs in at 8 pounds. And we'll kind of calibrate the scale that way and see if that works. The other thing I'm going to try to do is my wife is actually weighing in tonight at Weight Watchers. So when she gets home, I'm going to have her weigh herself and see if it comes out the same as what she weighed herself at Weight Watchers this evening. And if it comes out the same, then it must just be me. But I do have one little problem when I weigh myself, and that's, because I am a bigger person. I don't have the greatest balance, and the scale is kind of narrow. And with my legs and the way I stand, I usually stand wider, so it's a little more difficult for me to sort of narrow my stance up and stand on that. So I kind of wobble a little bit when I'm standing there, and sometimes the weight will fluctuate because of that. So I sort of have to guesstimate. It doesn't give me an exact number, so I sort of pretty much go with the number it stays on the longest, and that's sort of where my weight's coming from. So it could be any of those things, but I digress. I just kind of wanted to give you an idea of what was going on with me this week. That's a little update for you there on the weight issue. I'm working on trying to be more active throughout the day. I've had like a really slow period in that lately because I've been getting back into the chainmail, and a lot of that is done pretty much sitting right here. I have this table right here in front of me that the computer's on. I sit here and work on chainmail while watching TV or watching videos on the internet, videos on my computer, things like that, or listening to the radio, whatever it might be. But it's really difficult to do that while moving around. So when I've got a ton of work for that to do, I'm usually stuck sitting here. I'm also working a lot on starting a Legend of the Five Rings role-playing game at my local game store. And so again, a lot of that is done while I'm just sitting. One great thing about that is a lot of what I can do can be like thought about and sort of mulled over in my head. So while I'm moving around the house, getting other things done, cleaning up and things like that, I can think about those things, but at some point I'm going to have to stop, sit down, and type something in a computer, write something down in the notebook, things like that. But I am getting some things done for that. Like, I'm kind of actually a little bit proud of this that I did today while I was waiting for the cable guy to show up. It's a layout of the palace that my players will be in. I mean, we have like the main palace here, and then this portion right here is like the inner gardens. And there's a little park going around it there. These parts at the end here, like here and up here, are the guard towers. Then there's a wall, a little gate right here, and another wall that comes down over here. All these little squares and things that are around are just outbuildings, both inside and outside the palace area. This like windy bit here is a path that leads up to the palace. But that's sort of where they're going to be. It's not like Dungeons and Dragons or games like that where you actually will need a mat with minis to play. I don't run this game that way. Some people do. I don't. I prefer to keep it more up here. And besides, it's going to be a court-based game anyway, where it's more political intrigue and things. So there won't be much need for any sort of combat anyway. But yeah, I just kind of wanted to give people an idea of where they're at during this whole thing. So I just wanted to draw that out so everybody could sort of see that. But yeah, so there we are. I'm giving you a little update about where I am and what's going on. I do want to give everybody one little quick tip. It's not so much a recipe as it is, I guess, sort of a technique, sort of like what I talked about last week. And that is two things, actually. One thing that we started doing, my wife and I, the person who runs her Weight Watchers, she sat down with my wife and they sort of discussed some things. My wife was having some issues. She's, been trying desperately to lose more weight. She's kind of losing less than she wants to, less than other people in her meetings are losing. And she was looking to try to figure out a way to sort of change her diet. Because she works out a ton. My wife does. I mean, she's a active person in her job. She's a preschool teacher, and she runs around with kids all the time outside, runs with them, plays with them. So she's always on her feet, always, very active at work. Um, see, twice a week, she actually, or yeah, twice during the week, the actual Monday through Friday week, she does a Zumba class, which is, very active. She's always, jumping up and down and dancing and doing all that stuff. On Saturday mornings, every Saturday morning, she goes for a jog at the local park. And usually on Sunday, she goes for a little bit of a jog as well. And on Saturdays also, she goes out shopping. And she's out walking around shopping all day. So my wife's much more active than I am. Even though she works out so much and is very active like that, she was not losing really what she wanted to. So she figured the next step would be to look at how her diet is. Now she meets her points, but I guess based on her conversation with her mentor over there, Weight Watchers, they sort of discussed that how she's eating a little bit too much for dinner. Both of us are really, and I kind of touched on that a little bit last time about how the American standard is to eat a very large dinner, when in actuality your dinner should be the lower point count meal of the day, especially since it's the later meal, and because of the Zumba classes and everything else, my wife and I we eat fairly late. We generally eat around 7:30, sometimes as late as 8 o'clock, almost every night. We do that for a couple reasons. Partly because she's out doing things like the Zumba and everything, and partly also because we both have, I guess you'd say, issues with snacking in the evening. We have the desire to have a snack in the evening if we eat too early. Um, so what I sort of devised, which I'm hoping to get some feedback about this tonight when she comes home after she has a chance to talk to her mentor. But what I devised is to split dinner into 2 meals. So basically having 4 lower, sort of medium point meals per day. We have breakfast, which we're aiming to have between 8 and 10 points, lunch between 8 and 10 points, and then what I'm calling first dinner, which we're going to have around 5 to 5:30, somewhere in that span, which is going to include basically a protein, a carb, and a grain, but it's small, so it's actually, again, 8 to 10 points. And then second, we're going to have a second dinner, which we'll eat again around 7:30 to 8 o'clock. And the second dinner will pretty much just be a vegetable, or a salad or something along those lines. Just something to sort of, I guess, assuage our feelings for wanting to have snacks and kind of give us a little bit more of a full feeling. But in essence, what we're doing is splitting up our previous dinner. It was a bigger meal into 2 like half-size meals. So we're still having the same meal we had before, we're just eating it at different times. What I think that's going to do is the heavier part of the meal we're eating early. The protein and the starch is getting eaten earlier. So my wife, who goes and has her Zumba class, she'll then have the carbs and the protein to help her with her working out. And then that's actually the time when I'm planning on trying to working out myself. So that'll help. And then later on in the evening is going to be the lighter portion of the meal, the vegetable or the salad or fruits or whatever it is that we're having with the meal. So I think that's going to help things out for us a little bit by spacing things out and putting the carbs earlier in the day rather than later, so that they're not just sitting with us while we're sitting here just watching TV and relaxing at the end of the night. So that's one thing. The second thing is, if you're a fan at all of cabbage, which I am, and my wife is a big fan of cabbage. The way I used to make cabbage before, I'm kind of ashamed to say this, but I would usually take about half of a package of bacon. I would fry that bacon, chop it up into pieces. Hold on, we're getting attacked. Okay. Anyway, that was my cat. Sorry about that. I would chop bacon up into pieces, fry it up until it's crisp, take it out, and then take some of the bacon grease out, put a couple tablespoons back in, and sort of saute a whole head of cabbage that I chopped up, and saute that in that bacon fat a little bit with some salt and pepper until it got cooked down, and then we would eat that usually as a side dish. sometimes, if it was a big enough head of lettuce, that would be the entire meal. Well, we were kind of looking at doing the same sort of thing, but without all that extra bacon grease and a lot healthier. So what I discovered is I take a head of lettuce, shred it up fairly finely, put it into a pot with some water, or what I've actually used this last time was some chicken broth, some salt and pepper, and some sliced onions as well. Actually, I never used to do that before, but I did try it in this, and I liked it a lot. And I basically cooked it down until it was mostly cooked through, very wilted. There was very little liquid left. And then I took that and I put it into a couple of aluminum foil pouches that I made. Double layer aluminum foil. Put a pile in there, fold it over, seal up the edges real tight, fold them down real tight. And then as I was making the chicken for dinner that night on the grill, I put those pouches directly on the heat and would just turn them every, a couple of times. What happened was after about 20-25 minutes worth of grilling that way, the cabbage inside sort of got browned and a little caramelized. It sweetened everything up a little bit, gave it a really sort of sweet taste, and really deep into the flavor, and gave it a little bit of that smoky flavor also that I kind of liked from the bacon. So I kind of skipped the bacon entirely. There's no fat in it whatsoever. I didn't even use even a little bit of olive oil or anything. I just used I did use a little bit of cooking spray, I will admit to that. There was a spray on the inside of the aluminum foil just to keep it from sticking. And it did stick a little bit because it did get, really nice and brown and caramelized. But when you open up the pouch, if you sort of like swirl it around a little bit with your fork, it kind of picks up some of those caramelized, cooked on bits, and it's really good. I really recommend you try that out if you like cabbage at all. I know most people don't, but I happen to like it. Alright, that's it. That's this week's update. Thank you for tuning in. This has been your Portly Paladin, and until next time, don't forget to keep waging the war against your waistline. Have a good one, everybody.